Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, the most merciful and the ever merciful. Before I get into the details of the specific psychological operation, I think there's one more individual which needs to be addressed. And this is the individual who was behind this architect of chaos, this situation which embarrassed the British public, which destroyed British politics, and tore apart every fabric of the history of British democracy. So there is a man that needs to be addressed, and this man is none other than Morgan McSweeney. He was the former Downing Street Chief of Staff. So Mr. Morgan McSweeney, this is a direct message from the individual who you try to destroy regarding this apparent cover-up and your failed attempts, which unfortunately led to the resignation of Keir Starmer, Sir Keir Starmer. You see, Mr. McSweeney, this is not written in confusion. It is written in clarity. What makes your work so difficult to describe is not its brutality, but its gentleness. You do not break a man's ethics by opposing them. You guide him into setting them down himself. And the Prime Minister trusted you, the poor man. That is the part no one outside the room fully understands. The trust as you assisted him in becoming a Prime Minister. You helped him. You assisted him. You were by his side. This was not just political trust, nor was it strategic reliance, but something closer to moral delegation. The belief that those placed around him, especially those closest to decision making, would not lead him away from the principles that shaped him before power ever did. Mr. Starmer did not enter office as a hollow man. He entered it as someone shaped by law, human rights, restraint, and a belief that human dignity was not negotiable currency. That background mattered, and you knew it mattered, because it made him predictable in one very specific way. He would try to reconcile every decision with the idea that he was still acting ethically, even when the structure around him was quietly removing that possibility. You see, Mr. McSweeney, you did not attack those principles directly. You made them feel survivable in contradiction. You framed compromise as responsibility. You framed deviation as a necessity. You framed each step away from his original moral ground as temporary, something reversible, something that would not define him in the long term. And he trusted that framing, not because he lacked judgment, but because he believed trust, once placed, still had integrity in return. That is what makes this different from simple manipulation, Mr. McSweeney. It is the exploitation of good faith. And I watched as that good faith was slowly bent until it no longer resembled what it began as. You introduced the idea to commodify. You introduced the idea to ridicule. You introduced the idea to digitalize. You introduced the idea for the public to participate and humiliate, whilst hiding police corruption, police manipulation. You hoped that suicide, you hoped that overdose or permanent mental collapse would assist you. But it backfired. Since the one you try to destroy, it's addressing it head on. You see, McSweeney, Mr. Starmer knew about the police corruption via the indirect psychological influence I went through prior to 2022. And you knew that I would be regarded as a security threat, regarding my past connections with MI5 and MI6 and previous psychological harassment. Yet you concluded that there was no viable alternative. Subjecting the matter to due legal process would have risked exposing my links to MI5 and MI6. It would have exposed the previous psychological harassment and torture which I received in Egypt, as well as the circumstances surrounding the sexual assault and psychological operation in Brighton, in terms of Nicola Santiago and the illegal Brazilian immigrants protected by the police. Twisted the narrative, manipulate the situation. I think I am right to assume, given the fact that they are being protected, that this was facilitated through police authorization of possible third-party entities as well. This alternative approach therefore served to contain those issues. A predetermined narrative was constructed in advance, ensuring that any subsequent interviews or critical media coverage would function as part of a broader decoy strategy, reinforcing the official account while diverting attention from the underlying allegations. A man who once believed his ethics were non-negotiable found himself repeatedly negotiating them again and again and again. This is Keir Starmer. Not in one decisive fall, but in a series of justified steps that always promised restoration the next one. You, Mr. McSweeney, you became the voice that reassured him that he had not crossed the line. Only moved it as you politicized this matter with the slogan of protecting women and children. As my children, my very own children, watched their father be psychologically tortured, humiliated, turned into a meme, commodified, publicized, body shamed by covert surveillance. My very own children, who continuously are aware, as they mock my lineage, my name, my last name, my family name, the very family name which my children share, with the premise and the idea that you are protecting women and children. So you brought up the idea of clothing campaigns that were in of burgundy, of pink, and many other colors that one could imagine. Badges, phrases, innuendos, advertisements, and the use of pop culture and music was all used as a tool to protect police corruption, police misconduct, whilst at the same time engaging in mass manipulation. And Mr. McSweeney, when everything collapsed, when support fractured, when colleagues withdrew, when the political structure could no longer sustain the contradictions that had accumulated, you resigned and left office. That really should have been the end of it, a breaking point, a closing chapter, but it was not, because you recently returned after the resignation of Keir Starmer, and in that return the pattern did not feel broken. You still wanted to engage in the very, very, very same methods to solidify the narrative. Videos, images of myself, so-called videos of dancing or shaking myself, which is quite hilarious, to be honest. I presume a lot of these footages are either AI deepfakes or footages and information which were taken by Nicola Santiago and the incidents in regards to the drugging and drink spiking and many other things which I had to go through in Brighton, which was intentional, of course, and planned, which you know of as well. And there's one thing you need to understand. Now the same question remains, heavier than before. Was this system interrupted? Or simply allowed to reassert itself in a different form? You see, Mr. McSweeney, I'm not absolving Sir Keir Starmer. He is currently the Prime Minister. But I will not pretend the environment that Mr. Starmer was placed in did not shape the outcome. His credentials as a former human rights lawyer, the head of the CPS, his dedication, his life's work of equality, of due legal process, this had to be shaped by none other than yourself. So if there is a figure in this story that history will struggle to define, it is not Sir Keir Starmer who fell in public. The reality is, it is the one who learned how far a man can be moved while still believing he is standing still. Keir Starmer trusted you, Mr. McSweeney. You helped him rise. You helped him become the leader of the Labour Party, and ultimately the Prime Minister. Mr. Starmer remained loyal, even grateful, and you in return led him through your own distorted desires and psychological ambition down a path of humiliation and destruction. So Starmer is, I believe, a decent man, notwithstanding the grievous suffering I have endured and the lasting consequences visited upon my children, who have been compelled to witness their father brought to such a condition without the benefit of due process under the law, with the usage of modern technology, with the usage of social media, to take a human being, to dehumanize a human being, to commodify a human being, to destroy every single fabric of that human being and isolate that human being, knowing that this human being is a father, is a son, is an uncle, is a nephew, and a brother. I do not conclude that he acted from malice in regards to Mr. Starmer, but rather from misplaced trust in those whom he believed served the public good. In that I fear he was gravely misled. But you, Mr. McSweeney, occupy a different place in my judgment. If there are those who have trafficked in deceit, manipulation, and cruelty, then you stand foremost among them. My own life is of little consequence when weighed against the future of my children, whose upbringing has been scarred by these events, but as the burden I shall carry, including the burden of my tribe, my tribal lineage, my relatives, my family, and my faith. I can forgive those who wrong me, those who continue to wrong me in Belgium in regards to narrative manipulation and public humiliation and metaphors and many other aspects which I tend to experience consistently every single day. I can forgive everyone. I can forgive those, even those who inflicted harm upon myself in regards to the false sexual allegations regarding myself, those so-called victims of those females, of the abhorrent, filthy, disgusting allegation of pedophilia. I can forgive those individuals. You see, forgiveness is the privilege of conscience, and resentment is too heavy a chain for any man to bear forever. Yet, I cannot overlook calculated malice, manipulation of narratives, exploitation of deeply distressing material, and conduct which betrayed every principle of decency and justice as you manipulate the narrative. You abandoned your post when it suited you, Mr. McSweeney, only to return once more to the halls of Westminster. To my mind, that return was not marked by repentance, but a continuation of the same designs that brought much misery upon myself and my family, Mr. McSweeney. History judges all men in the fullness of time. It remembers not merely what they achieved, but how they exercised the power entrusted to them. Did my assessment prove correct? I believe your conduct, will not be remembered with honor, but with profound regret. One who was a disgrace to the British politics and a disgrace to his Irish heritage and a disgrace to humanity. Such behavior brings discredit not only upon myself, but upon yourself. I must say upon yourself, but also upon the office you held and the people whom you claim to serve. You turned my own circle against me. You separated family, friends, teachers, students. You were part of giving one a social and civil and global and digital death. And in the end, the betrayal that I had to go through came back to bite you in the bum. Betrayal came even to your own ranks, as hundreds of Labour members of Parliament turned upon their leader, Sir Keir Starmer. You see, Mr. McSweeney, betrayal is a bitter companion, and few escape its sting and heal. Yet I bear no malice towards Mr. Starmer. I wish him well. I watched his resignation message as he struggled to hold back his tears and hugged his wife. I do deem him to be a good man, a man who was misled. And for that reason, no man should rejoice in another's undoing. England has always been my home. My life has been bound to this country through history, through maternal colonial ties in regards to British Somaliland that stretch back all the way to the days of the British Empire. Yet by your actions, I have found myself without the protection of a state, without the security of the law, and left to endure profound injustice and ontological control with an open, global, public, physical, digital prison. As I look upon myself, I see a strange indifference. People jogging mindlessly, walking their dogs, coughing and spitting near me, strolling around bare-chested, giggling. And these are not just adults. We see teenagers, children, indoctrinated to hate and to dehumanize, similar to the sufferings which obviously the Jews had to go through prior to the Second World War. A virus, a rat, a dog. It seems to me that public attention has been steadily drawn away from the reason and reflection and towards the compulsive and mindless habits of social media. And as I previously mentioned, the very word user, as a social media user, is telling. It really is telling. It is a term once chiefly associated with those dependent upon narcotics, yet it is now applied without hesitation to the consumption of digital platforms. One may well ask whether the effects are so different, but in both cases, there is the shaping of attention, dopamine, the reinforcement of habit, and the pursuit of repeated stimulation that can override restraint. Thus, we witness a society increasingly absorbed by its own distractions. And luckily, spectacle, not of malice, but of drift. A society where abuse and harassment is authorized by the police and state. As Shakespeare famously said, hell is empty. Hell is empty. Hell is empty, and all the devils are here. You see, Mr. McSweeney, you planned the ending. I rewrote it.